Good morning. Today is chapter 28 for me, and this was a very interesting chapter. Some thought-provoking instances are coming out here. In this chapter, Nephi is warning his descendants and children about what he sees in the last day. And he's talking about how Satan works and how he tries to convince people that he doesn't exist, and how people will be like, everything's fine, we're okay. And anyway, so here there's some questions and things that I think would be interesting to discuss with the whole family. So the first thing is verses 7 and 8. In the Ludlow book, it talks about, I'll just read it. Okay, so any person who has carefully studied the teachings of modern theologians recognizes that many of them now teach that there is no such thing as sin against God. They claim sin is simply doing wrong against oneself. And I thought that was obviously very true. About how we were talking earlier about my truth, her truth, his truth. You know, it's like there is no sin against God. Like, my morals are whatever I feel is wrong, and your morals are whatever you feel is wrong. You know, so I thought that was a very interesting point. But he gives a quote by John Taylor here that says, basically, if I am a being that came into the world yesterday and leaves it again tomorrow, I might as well have one religion as another, or none at all. But if I am an eternal being, I want to know something about that eternity with which I am associated. I want to know something about God, the devil, heaven, and hell. If there is a God, I want a religion that supplies some means of certain and tangible communication with him. If there is a heaven, I want to know what sort of place it is. If there are angels, I want to know their nature and their occupation and of what they are composed. If I am an eternal being, I want to know what I am to do when I get through with time. I thought that was very interesting because as you go out and you meet certain people, their vision of, well, you know, I'm probably just gonna be a ghost, or there is no heaven, there is no hell, I'm just gonna carry on into space, or I don't know. They're all crazy. But anyways, I just thought that was a very thought-provoking question and topic. You know, anyways, moving on. So then he talks about verses 20 through 23 about, at that day the devil shall rage. Others will he pacify. He will tell them, I am no devil, for there is none. They are grasped with death and hell. And anyways, it says, this portion of Nephi's record is the playbook of Lucifer exposed in plainness for all to see. Nephi's strategy makes eerie sense to us today as our nation's leadership expends enormous amounts of time and resources to learn the playbook and plans of the terrorist groups who constantly plot to destroy the destruction of our way of life. To know and understand the enemy is to be forewarned. To have insight into the enemy's tactics is the first step in overthrowing the enemy's design and in creating security for one's family. The Lord wants us to be on full alert against the incursions of evil, and Nephi is the Lord's voice on the battlefield of daily life, where our chief defense is the truth of God, which is the rock upon which we can establish our stand and achieve our victory. And I liked this little bit because it's like, if you want to know how he attacks you, if you want to know how he works, if you want to know how to protect your family, you need to know this. Like, here's a whole chapter telling you how Satan's gonna work, how Satan, like, tries to get to you, or the people who lead the country, or, you know, your kids' friends. If you want to know how to protect your kids, here it is, right here. What did it say? To know and understand the enemy is to be forewarned. And I remember a talk by Jeffrey R. Holland where he's like, no, we don't like to talk about Satan. We don't even like to bring him up, but he's a real person, and we need to acknowledge that, and we need to I've lost the word for it anyway, but I really like that because you know, you can't just sit back and be like, oh, everything's fine, you know, I'll just read my scriptures and I'll pray every day, and I'll just try to think happy thoughts and everything's good. Yeah, that's fine, but then it also goes into, woe be unto him that is at ease in Zion, and it says, Nephi identifies the leading objections that people bring up against the restored gospel and the Book of Mormon. The opposite constitutes the agenda of the disciples of the Lord, to be constantly engaged in a good cause, never at ease with mediocrity. And this also I wanted to talk about because, you know, there are times where even I say, GE is good enough, GE, and like step, you know, but I think what they're trying to say is don't settle for being, okay, let me put it, the thought just hit my brain. So when we were talking earlier about Nephi and Laman and Lemuel and all that stuff, and I was like, I'm content with being a Sam. Okay, I'll be a Sam. I don't want to be Nephi. That's being okay with mediocrity. Not that Sam was mediocre, but we should strive to be Nephi. We should strive to be better. We should strive to be the one who the Lord calls on. We should strive to be the one who the Lord commands to do this, the one who the Lord calls on. Not to be your sidekick, but to be the one he calls on. Never settle for mediocrity. And that's something else that I wanted to discuss with all of you. I thought today was a great reading. Was there something else? I think that was it. I think that was all I had today. What do you all think? What are your thoughts? Was that? Yeah, I think that's it. So I did chapter 28 today. Tomorrow is chapter 29. And tomorrow's Saturday. And then Sunday is chapter 30. Yes. Okay, I have today off. I'm going to paint that hallway with Malia. I hope to talk to you all today. Love you. Have a great day.